we'll start with a little introduction to us two. So my name's Megan. We're both community engagement officers for our Blue Meadows project, and I specifically cover Devon and Dorset, whereas Eden, who is also on the call, she mostly covers Cornwall, and then anything outside of those three areas, we just split it between us, kind of go everywhere and anywhere that anyone wants to hear about seagrass. So our roles are very much, we're very varied. We do a lot of in-person engagement, but we also do a lot of digital engagement. And a lot of what we do is trying to empower people to take action to protect seagrass themselves. So citizen science comes under that umbrella. So we'll go through all of that in a moment. But before we do, I just want to mention the Ocean Conservation Trust. So hopefully you've all heard of us. We are a charity that primarily works to protect and restore the ocean, but we're taking a very people-centric approach to this. So everything we do is all about getting people to access the ocean in their own little way. So we have three pillars on the screen here. Our ocean experiences. It's centred around the National Marine Aquarium, which is a big aquarium down in Plymouth, which we own. And it's a really great centre for getting people through the doors, just looking at things that they can find out in the ocean and getting that very baseline understanding of what's out there and trying to get them to care about it. We also do lots of trips from the aquarium where we do kayaking, getting them actually into the ocean. And then if people can't access the ocean, we take the ocean to them. So we have lots of programs where we have VR headsets, marine artifacts that we take to different community groups to try and get them to experience the ocean if they just can't access it anymore. We then have our ocean advocacy arm, which is getting people to think about the ocean on a deeper level. So we talk to a lot of councils around the country, but we're also working globally. We work with the United Nations and we're trying to start up an ocean literacy strategy for England at the moment, which is super exciting. And then we also have our ocean habitats arm, which is where we come in our Blue Meadows project. So Blue Meadows is all about seagrass conservation. I'm assuming you all know about seagrass and hopefully you already love it enough to want to go out and protect it. But I will do a very, very quick overview of what seagrass is. So it's the only true marine flowering plant in the ocean. So it creates seeds, it flowers, it pollinates other plants, and it does its whole life cycle underwater. And it's very unique because of this. Now, it evolved about 100 million years ago, but its closest living relatives are actually lilies. So it's more closely related to terrestrial plants like terrestrial grasses rather than seaweed that you would get in the ocean. Now, the really important thing about seagrass is that it is a photosynthesizing plant. So it needs to take in light, takes in light and carbon dioxide, creates in sugars, and that allows the plants to grow. But because of this, it lives in very shallow areas. So in the UK, you'll find it up to 10 to 15 metres deep. If you go to nice sunny countries like in the Mediterranean, you'd find it a lot deeper at 40 to 50 metres. So around our coastline in Britain, all along the south coast, you'll be finding it. Once you get on the east coast, it gets a little bit rougher, so it doesn't survive so well. But then up in Scotland, you get a lot, and around our west coast as well. Seagrass is super, super important. It's a biodiversity hotspot, so you get lots of exciting animals like seahorses and cuttlefish, octopus, that raise their young in seagrass. So the species that we work with, its leaves can grow up to about 1 metre tall. So you can imagine it creates quite a nice protected area that young fish are able to grow up in. And because of this, it also supports our economy. So all of your standard fish and chip species like cod, plaice, haddock, they all grow up in seagrass nurseries. So we support seagrass to support the fishermen and support our economy as well. Now, it's kind of big headline, why is seagrass important, is absolutely carbon storage. You've probably heard the fact that seagrass stores carbon 35 times faster than a tropical rainforest. This is a Mediterranean species, but all seagrasses are really good at storing carbon. They obviously take in the carbon dioxide for photosynthesis, but they're also able to lock in a lot of dead organic matter into the sediment, which is where its real power comes from. So it's really good in the fight for global climate change. And then it's really good for communities as well. So if you imagine you have hundreds of these plants that are a metre tall just off your coastline, and you have a nice heavy wave coming in, a big stormy weather situation happening, those plants can take out the energy from those waves and make it nice and calm, so you protect the communities behind. And then that links to our well-being as well, because seagrass makes nice calm environments that have lots of biodiversity. Around here especially, we have lots of lovely beaches that are really great for swimming, kayaking, that kind of thing. We attribute it all to seagrass. So we want to save it, basically. My clicker's now not working. So unfortunately, we wouldn't be talking about seagrass if it was doing okay. All seagrass across the globe is threatened, and primarily it is an outcome of human behaviour. But as I said before, we are a people-centric charity, so we believe that people are the answer. But we do have to go back to the beginning to address these threats to make sure that seagrass can survive long-term in the wild. So its three main biggest threats at the moment in the UK are physical damage by things like anchoring, dredging, trawling can all damage the root system of seagrass, and it can cause up to 10 years of damage just through one anchor. So it's really important that we can address that. We also have poor water quality in the UK. More particles in the water can reduce the light availability. That stops seagrass from growing. It can also increase algal blooms, and especially invasive species that grow on the leaves of seagrass. That can make it really difficult for seagrass to grow. Now, there's a nice stat on the screen here of since the 1930s, we've lost a confirmed amount of 44% of our UK seagrass. We have lots of different estimates around this, but some of them go up to 90% of our UK seagrass has been lost in 100 years. So it's not looking good, but we are here to hopefully make a difference. So as our Blue Meadows project, we are working to protect the seagrass that we have left, and we're hoping to restore the seagrass that has been lost. So at the moment, we are working primarily in the southwest coast. So we have sites from Falmouth to Poole, and when we have a Blue Meadows site, it means that we are either doing physical restoration or we are doing some kind of protection measure. And some sites we have a couple of different things going on. So Falmouth and Plymouth are in nice green rings. These are our active restoration sites at the moment. So Blue Meadows, we have kind of four main things going on. Our protection, we use these lovely yellow top hat marker buoys, which we put outside of seagrass areas to kind of delineate where they are. They normally show voluntary no anchor zones, so we're asking people to protect the seagrass that is in that area. We are also doing a lot of restoration. I think we have the biggest subtidal seagrass restoration project in the UK, and we're seeing some really nice results from it. We're doing a lot of upscaling at the moment, so we have a few different forms of how we're actually restoring seagrass. And then everything that we are doing is monitored. We have a lot of technology like this ROV on the screen. We use divers to monitor, we use drop cameras, we do as much as we can to show that what we are doing is working. And then we also do a lot of different engagement. So we go out and do talks with different community groups, we get people into the aquarium, we get lovely dancers like Katie, who's on the call, to come in and be seagrass around and get everyone excited about seagrass. We do lots of different things that try and get people to connect with seagrass and try to protect it. So our citizen science work that we're doing at the moment is kind of a combination of protection, monitoring and engagement, but it's a really important part that we would love to have your help with. So I'm going to pass over to Eden.
Thanks, Meg. I'm just going to take control of this screen a moment. But yeah, so as Megan said, our Blue Meadows Coastal Count is our citizen science initiative, which we've designed for multiple reasons. But broadly, it is so we can better understand the relationship between our communities and how they interact with seagrass meadows. So these beautiful habitats are often what we call ecotourism hotspots. So you might have a lot of recreational activity happening in these areas, whether that's snorkeling, boating, diving, stand-up paddleboarding, kayaking, as you can see. So there's often a lot going on around them. So understanding in specific locations how these habitats are used can be really, really helpful in ensuring they're effectively protected. So that is one reason why we have set up this coastal count. The data that we do collect is also really important for building that kind of understanding of how we value these habitats culturally. So, what's their intrinsic value? How does it make people feel? And why are they hotspots for all of this activity? Because they're beautiful and full of biodiversity and all of that, but having this data can be really powerful when it comes to kind of bolstering their protection with their cultural significance as well. And of course, citizen science is really important on an individual level and a personal level. So, not only by going out and undertaking some citizen science are you contributing to real world conservation, but in this instance, with the coastal count, you get to spend an hour by the sea. So, that's really good for your mindfulness, your health, and your well-being, drawing on, the well-known research that blue spaces can be incredibly powerful for our own well-being. So I'm just going to try and change slide a moment, guys. I don't know if I've successfully got control, Meg, so maybe if I could ask you just to go to the next slide. Thank you. So for Blue Meadows, another reason why this coastal count is really important is due to our voluntary no anchor zones. So, as Megan said, part of our protection work is to highlight the presence of these habitats, so by marking them out with a lovely line or a various shape that you can see quite clearly in this picture. So seeing how well these voluntary no anchor zones are used, are they respected? Is there a certain type of stakeholder or water user that maybe doesn't understand why they're there and what they're used for? It's really important, and it can influence how Megan and I then engage with communities. Do we need to make sure we're telling everyone and even more about it? And yeah, work with potential specific groups, for example. So it's really important in understanding these voluntary no anchor zones as well. So we do have a variety of locations that we've set up to run a coastal count, and a lot of these will have a voluntary no anchor zone. So you'll be able to see this line of big yellow top hat buoys. But we are also really interested in looking at areas where there isn't the presence of a voluntary no anchor zone, which we will refer to as VNAs going forward. So hopefully that's okay. So yes, we are looking at activity over meadows which aren't protected by a VNAS as well. So yes, there is the two, so we can compare that as well. Next slide, please, Meg. So, what data are we collecting within these voluntary no anchor zones or these seagrass meadows, and how do we do it? So, we have designed this coastal count to be a 1 hour survey, which is ad hoc, can be done at any time to suit the individual who's surveying. So, we do recommend that this is done in all right weather, in good weather. So, spring kind of now to autumn in the year. We don't really collect too much data in the winter time. So yeah, spring, summer, and autumn. This is designed for, and it can be done any time that suits the individual, as I mentioned. All you need as well is a pair of binoculars, which will help you to see the vessels clearly, and something comfortable to wear for whatever the weather is. So just making sure you're comfortable if you're sitting or standing on the coastline for an hour. And finally, a way of recording the survey or carrying out the survey. So we have got two methods to do that. Megan's now going to click on our online survey form. So this is hopefully really straightforward. Everything is step by step, and we also have a paper version as well. So you can see here that we ask a few questions before we start any kind of counting of these vessels. So this includes the location, which thank you, Meg. We have these set up locations already, so really easily can just select one of these. And then we also ask for a few more details, which are anonymous. So record a name, that is personal preference. Sometimes there's individuals who do this quite regularly, and we really value your time and our volunteers' time. So knowing that there's somebody who's, say, gone out every week for a month, means that we can thank them for that, and we really value that. So that's entirely up to you. Record a name. Then we have our what three words location. So this one enables us to make sure that this survey in a certain location is carried out, in the same spot for, I'm forgetting the word now, continuity, I think is the right word. Yes, I'm getting nods. You can find that location from the What Three Words website, or I'll come on and show you guys some guides a little bit later on, but all of the locations have the What Three Words already written on this kind of guide that we've made. Next up, we have our start time and our end time. So our end time is just going to be an hour after the time we started the survey, and of course the date as well. So this, again, it's all really valuable in knowing if there's peak times of year, for example, where there's a lot of recreational activity. So the next couple of questions are our environmental conditions, really. So weather, this is multiple choice, so you can you don't just have to select sunny, for example, any of those that fit. And then we move on to our sea state. Now, some of you might have heard of the Beaufort scale before, but if you haven't, I'm going to, when we jump back to the presentation, go through that one. But it just assigns a wind speed with a certain category of what the sea might look like. So we've popped these little descriptions. So it's matching up what you think the sea looks like compared to these descriptions, which indicates the speed, the wind speed as well. And then wind direction, wind speed can easily be selected from or found out, should I say, from your weather app on your phone. We always ask for a picture as well. So this is just standardized to make sure we're from the same vantage point, for example, and just really helps. So that little camera button on the side there, if you are on your phone, you can click that and it just will take you straight to your camera app. Now we're almost ready to start our coastal count, but before we do, we ask how many vessels were present within the voluntary no anchor zone. So this could be a tally. You're not necessarily splitting these vessels by type, but you might see 5 vessels in front of you. And then we ask how many of those were anchored as well. So that's before we start. And now we get on to our hour-long survey where we're going to be sat, hopefully relaxing and looking out at the sea in front of us. So we have 2 things to ask or to collect data on when we are carrying out the count. That is vessels that are travelling within these voluntary no anchor zones or within these seagrass areas, and then any vessels that are travelling outside of these voluntary no anchor zones or seagrass areas. So the way the survey online is set is as Meg has shown here. So we do one section and then the other section, but you can scroll up and down, so you can kind of tally in these boxes as you're going along. So we ask for the total number, and I think it'd be best to do that at the very end, but we split all the vessels into categories of boats. Again, I'm going to go through some examples of some of these vessels when we jump back to the presentation, but these are broad categories for now. And yeah, there is a place for other as well if there's something we've completely missed, which a good one is jet skis. So we haven't popped that down as a vessel, but if you do see them, that's a really worthwhile thing of noting in the other category. And then almost finally, we also are looking at anchoring activity. So we've got our travelling inside and out, but we also want to know who might be anchoring, or what vessel, should I say, anchoring within these areas. So again, that's just a total number. And if you can get a good look at the boat, just knowing the type of it in these two boxes here is really useful for us. So we've now come to the end of our hour-long survey, and we just ask for a final picture, so we can see the difference. Maybe somebody's anchored in there the whole time, maybe other things are going on, but a picture at the start and the end. And then our final question is around swimmers. So recreational activity does include people in the water. We are obviously focusing on water activity, but it's really important for us to be able to gauge, are people using this area to swim in or to snorkel in, for example. We understand there's a lot of counting going on. So this one is a little bit looser, a simple yes or no, and then an approximation throughout the hour. But if you're a keen bean, we have no problems with it not being an approximation and you tallying as you go. And then finally, we just have a box if you've seen something worthwhile that you might want to comment on. Now, there's a whole array of things that this could be, and that's up to the individual surveyor if they want to tell us something. But just a few examples are a vessel we haven't included. I did mention jet skis a little earlier on. There might be dolphins over the Seagrass meadow, for example, or you might have seen some kind of not something that doesn't look quite right happening on board a boat or on the beach. So those are just some very broad examples of something you might like to tell us, or yeah, anything. You might have had an ice cream, you might have enjoyed your ice cream, you want to tell us that. If we could go back to the presentation now, please, Meg. So we've just gone through our online form. Now that's really easy to access through your phone. We will send out a link to all of this after the end of the webinar. But we understand that some people like good old pen and paper. So this is our form that you can print out, and it has exactly the same information on, but slightly different the way it's laid out, just because you can't scroll down it. But we're hoping that these grey boxes clearly mark out what we're doing before we start surveying, as we're surveying, and then at the end. The only thing to note here is that the vessels don't have the description on. So if you are going to use the paper survey, it might be worth just having a read through the guide before you head out to the cliff, sorry. But this one's really great for tallying, which is definitely my preference of counting. So yeah, next slide, please, Meg. So I may have mentioned some things as we were going down the survey, which some of you might have never heard before, or some of you might be familiar with. One of those is the Beaufort scale. I did mention that it is a way to estimate wind speed and sea state, and this is it's basically splits wind speed and what the sea would look like into a total of 13 categories. Now we've only got 5 for the coastal count, because anything above 5 is getting a bit choppy, it's getting a little bit rough, and we don't necessarily advise people going out to the cliffs or counting in that weather, just because there also might not be very much to count. So one nice thing to know about this, if you are able to access the Beaufort scale through our guide as you're doing a survey, you can find out the wind speed. For example, we've got 5 knots of wind speed. We automatically know that it is going to be Beaufort scale number 2. If there's any being a bit unsure on the descriptions, that's a really nice way to just be sure that, yes, it's going to be that sea state. Yes, next, please, Meg. And now I'm just going to briefly go over the vessel categories that we've popped into the survey. So we are aware that there's a myriad of ways that a vessel can look, and vessel types. So these are broad categories. for example, sailing boats, there's so many different sailing boats, but we have chosen to split them into large and small. So when we're thinking of a large sailboat, these are going to be over 10 meters or about 30 foot in length. And one little tip is sometimes they'll have multiple masts or multiple, like lots of sails going on. They'll be visibly bigger, bit more decorative, a lot more going on than our smaller sailboats. So you should visibly see the size of those. And then our small sailboats, so these are going to be less than 30 foot or less than 10 meters. Generally, we'll only have, well, they might have a few more than two sails, but they're going to have less sails, a single mast, and a bit simpler in design because usually, or most of the time, their design is more for like a day purposes, so you don't need to have as much on board, but I'm aware that's a sweeping statement. And our small sailing boats do include little racing dinghies. So these are, I don't know if anybody has seen them, but it's individuals that they're in a wetsuit and they'll have a life jacket on, and that boat is really sat close to the water unless you're going around a corner, and they're just racing these tiny little dinghies. So that is in that category as well, if anybody does see them. They're quite common down in Falmouth where I am, so yes, maybe my view of those is a bit skewed. Next up, we have power boats. So this is any vessel that is propelled by machinery, so has an outboard engine. Now, usually you can actually see the outboard engine at the stern or the back of the boat, particularly if you've got your binoculars. You can make out this really distinctive outboard engine shape, but there's other ways to tell that it's a powerboat. For example, speed, they have power, so they can often go fast, particularly if you're not in a speed restricted area, which means there might be quite a sizable wake, or there's definitely going to be a wake behind this boat. So yeah, when we're thinking of power boats, this is generally nothing with a sail, but it does include motorboats and motor yachts, which might have a cabin, and some of those smaller ones might not. Next slide, please, Meg. Next up is our ribs. So a rib stands for a rigid inflatable boat, and you can make out that kind of black tubing which runs around the edge of this boat. Now these have a solid hull, and generally a very large engine or even two outboard engines at the back. They can they get up to speed, they get really fast, they're multi-purpose, multi-use, should I say, sorry. So the RNLI, the Coast Guard sometimes use these, but I've also seen them used for wildlife operators and just individuals who want to go fast on a boat. So there's lots of different ways that these ribs can be used, but the distinctive thing to look out for is the tubing around the side there. We've then got non-powered craft. So as it says, this one's quite an easy one. So it's anything that is manually being moved along. So look out for oars or a paddle. We have included stand-up paddleboards in that. So that's, yeah, slow vessels without an engine that you can see being manually moved. And then we have our commercial vessels. So again, this one, there's many different types of commercial vessels. The image here is a ferry, but this might also include wildlife tour operators and commercial shipping, but as well service boats. So the RNLI and the harbour's boat are just some examples what would fit into a commercial vessel. One potential little tip, which is definitely why we recommend binoculars, is they're likely to be branded or have some sort of logo on. So if they are inshore, you might be able to see a logo, and then you'll know they're most likely a commercial vessel. But if anybody is unsure, that's okay. Just do your best from the descriptions that we have on the survey sheet. And then finally, next slide, please, Meg. Thank you. We have our, almost said vessel type then, fishing boats. Again, broad category of fishing boats, and we have chosen to pop large fishing boats with small fishing boats in one category. So For the purposes of the coastal count, I would expect smaller vessels to be the ones that we see, either using seagrass meadows or travelling by seagrass meadows. But there are some areas where there's really quite substantial and well-used ports and harbours, very active near fishing near seagrass meadows. So these larger boats like the trawler, which is over on the right hand side, and the ring netter in the middle, might be seen kind of travelling alongside. Hence why we've chosen to include them all. But the on the left hand side, we've got the smaller vessel with rockfish on it. This is a static gear. Well, they are fishing with static gear, so they've got a lobster pot. So this kind of boat is what we'd expect, or we'd be more likely to see in these meadows. And this does as well include recreational anglers. So look out for the presence of fishing rods. They often have holds where you pop your fishing rods, so you'll see a load of rods either over the sides of the boat or the stern, the back of the boat there. So that's a quick summary of the types of vessels that we're interested in collecting data on. Next slide, please, Meg. And we've also asked you to look out for anchoring vessels. So just a few hot little tips about how you can actually determine that a vessel is anchored. Sometimes it's really straightforward. You'll just see that it's not moving, that there's no wake or water movements around it, but you might be the vessel might be a bit further away and you might need to look for some other clues. So we've got an anchor ball. Now this is that dark black ball which is often put up on the bow of the boat. This is a universal signal which everybody understands. Well, boaters understand that vessel is anchored, so that's an easy one to look for. And also the presence of the anchor line. So this is going to be taut going into the water. It could be from the bow or the stern, so the front or the back of the boat, but generally a lot of the time it's from the bow, which is where then these smaller boats certainly would have their little winch. So a taut line or that anchor ball, or a relatively still boat which isn't moving. There might be some movement with wind or currents, but rather than this kind of actually like trailing or moving a substantial distance, it might kind of turn a bit because you've got your hold in your anchor. So there might be more of a rotational movement rather than moving from side to side. So just a few little tips there, because sometimes it can be a bit tricky. And then finally, I think, Meg, yes. So I'm aware that that's a lot of information there, particularly over boats and things like that. And there are some things that are in the guide which we haven't had time to go over today. One of those, for example, is all of the locations where we have an active coastal count site. So this guide can be found on our website, and all of our locations are listed on there. But we've also included details of the survey area. So if it's a voluntary no anchor zone you're surveying, or if it's a seagrass meadow without a protection zone, and also some information on nearby access. So where there's free parking or what bus route goes there, because we really want to make this as accessible as possible. We're also very keen on reimbursing an individual's travel or parking that they might have. I'm struggling for the word there, but any parking fees or travel fees that you've incurred, there we are, from doing a coastal count. So there's information on how you can submit a form, which enables us to pay you back for that, for example, as well as information on how to submit a paper form and those pictures there. So yes, it has everything we've just run through and more on that guide, and it will be, it's there. It's a fixed point, so you can look at it whenever you are going out to do your survey, or even when you are doing your survey. Next slide, please, Meg. So we also recognise that sometimes when you've been told something over a screen, coming to put it into practice can be quite difficult, or you might have some hiccups you weren't expecting, for example. So we have set up these in-person sessions where Meg and I will be carrying out a survey, and anybody who kind of books on and wants to come down does the survey with us. It's an opportunity to fully understand the process, obviously learn lots about seagrass and the more of our Blue Meadows work, but also a really great way to meet like-minded people. So you might come and meet some other people who are doing a coastal count in your area. And so yes, there's that element as well as spending an hour by the sea. So these are all free. We will share this link again after the webinar. But yes, hopefully if any of you can't make it, please do share with your friends. And very, very last slide is just to say thank you, everyone. Thanks so much for coming and spending an hour listening to us this evening, and also for your support and yeah, want to learn more about our coastal count. We're now going to open the floor for any questions. We can talk through any areas of the count which people are unsure about, or even jump all the way back and go back to talking about seagrass. So feel free to verbally say these, or write them in the chat, whatever feels most comfortable. But thank you very much, everyone, for your time. Go, Janet. Hi. I don't know if you're on mute still, Janet. Oh, here we go. I do apologise. I think that's actually because of our settings on the webinar. So I'm so sorry about that. You should be able to now unmute yourself.
Yeah, thanks. That was the problem. Yeah, just wondering about somewhere where maybe if the seagrass is a bit patchy,
Mhm.
how do we know, if something is there in a particular patch of it? Because you can't always see, can you?
Yeah, so do you mean, for example, if you had a patchy meadow in front of you, and there was a boat on top of it, how would you know that's over the seagrass?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're quite right. We can't necessarily always know. These habitats are under the sea. So from with the naked eye on the cliff, we can't necessarily tell that there's exactly seagrass there without then going in with an ROV or divers, that kind of thing. So we have put broad areas which correlate to where the known seagrass meadows is, or are, should I say. And so these areas, yeah, they might be patchy, but they encompass the whole known patch of seagrass. So we're just looking in that general area, because yeah, even any activity, for example, anchoring activity or certain fishing, even if it's on the very edge of that meadow, could still damage the known seagrass a little bit back from any dragging or wind movements, that kind of thing. So yeah, these broad areas just give everyone a space to kind of know that it's okay. This is the area I'm looking for, or I'm looking in. Thank you, Janet. Meg, Noah has asked about invasive species. So what sort of can you name any invasive species, and are there more invasive faunal or flora species?
So I'd say the issue with seagrass and invasive species is more the out competition that it experiences. So we get a lot of wildweed down in Plymouth where I am, that generally just gets in the way, and it stops seagrass being able to get that light for photosynthesis. And then you get a lot of epiphytic algae that grows on the leaves of seagrass, which I can't remember any names of invasive species right now. But it does have a bit of a tough time trying to compete with all the other species that are trying to live in the ocean.
Yeah, it can it can be really impactful in certain areas. I've just seen Diane said about sargassum. Yes, absolutely. So sargassum is known as Japanese wireweed, or wireweed, and it's a kind of fast-growing, very tall seaweed that just grows up and up and up. So with the movement of the tide, you will get some of it that's then going to flop over and form like a barrier over the seagrass. So the light cannot penetrate cannot penetrate the water. So you will get that definitely in seagrass areas, particularly where you've maybe got rocky reef on either side, and that kind of thing. I've also seen, Diane, your earlier question about its height, so it growing to 1 meter tall. So that is generally how tall Zostera marina grows on average, but there are certain conditions which would mean that the plant's actually chucking more energy into growing. So down in Falmouth, there's a location or a seagrass meadow called which is in Flushing, and this is an area where there's really bad water quality. So it's right next to a working dockyard and lots of boat activity. So there's a lot of turbidity in the water, and the seagrass is so long there. It's well over 1 meter, nearly 2 meters, and that's because it's trying to get into the lighter part of the water to actually be able to photosynthesize. So yeah, when we say 1 meters tall, that's what we usually find with our UK common eelgrass, Zostera marina. But in certain areas it might be a lot taller. And interesting here that you say on Scilly, more than 2 meters between the Eastern Isles, and that it probably is to do with the depth. So yeah, they're just wanting to get to the light. So there will be some variation, but generally, for this species, it's about 1 meter. But as you go across the globe, you get all sorts of different shapes and sizes. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's some which go a lot taller or just stay really, really dinky. So yeah, there's a few. Has anybody got any more questions they'd like to share verbally at all? Yeah. So there's some in the chat now saying that St Austell Bay, another one down here in Cornwall, 12 to 15 inches of seagrass. So there is huge variability, but when you have the description of a species, we go with this 1 meter. But it's very interesting to think about what might be those factors of its height. Katie, would you like to share your question? Oh, sorry, this is my fault. I thought by just doing it for one individual, everyone would be able to allow their mics. Let me see if I can do that. I think, sorry, you've got to do another button there, Katie. It's my fault entirely. I don't know how to do. I think, Katie, you're still on mute. And I can't find a button to allow everybody's mic, so we have to do this one at a time, I'm afraid. I think Richard, would you like to share while we're figuring out Katie's mic? So at the right hand top bit of the screen, there should be a button next to where it says leave, which says mic. And so if you press that, Katie, that should help. But Richard, feel free to
okay.
take the
Can you hear
floor.
me okay?
I can, yeah, thank you.
Excellent. Okay. Just a quickie. The National Coast Watch, I think it's the institute, exists all around the coastline. Can they, or have they been approached to try and assist with some of these surveys?
Definitely. I think so our coastal count, we've really developed it in the last, just under a year, Meg, what would you say?
Yeah, it was kind of summer last year, wasn't it? So we're still trying to spread the word as much as possible.
Yeah.
I did meet our local Coast Watch people recently, so we're getting in there. We're getting our fingers in the pies.
Okay.
But I think the more people that know about this would obviously be better for us, getting more data. But hopefully, people will want to take part and collect that data, but also have a nice time sat next to the ocean. So
Yeah.
I think
Well,
Coast Watch is one we should go for.
Okay. Well, the Coast Watch people are there mainly throughout every day. and would be in an ideal position because they're overlooking the sea, obviously, by what they do. So I could imagine they'd be very useful to you in that respect. Anyway,
Yeah.
it's just a thought. I thought
No,
I'd share.
it's a really excellent thought, and I think Sally's just said what I was in the chat here. What I was about to say is they're stationed there all the time, and it's perfect. But sometimes they're stationed in areas where we don't see seagrass beds, so it's something which we definitely want to share with the whole of NCI and getting more people knowing about it, but actually getting them to do it might be more targeted in certain locations across the southwest. So
Yeah.
that's something which, yeah, we'll hopefully be able to do in the coming months.
Okay, smash it. Thank you.
Thank you. Go for it, Noah. I think yeah, sorted your
Hello.
mic. Hiya.
I just want to say thank you very much for the talk. Oh, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you.
you very much for the talk. I just wanted to quickly ask, because I've only sort of recently become like aware of seagrass and like its importance. And as someone who's based in Torbay, I was just wondering, are there any sort of chances for people to sort of get involved in one of your stations by chance? Because like I'm a uni student and I sort of focus on environmental science and marine and that sort of thing. So are there any sort of summertime like part-time jobs at all that are available for, or you know, just even like a drop-in session just to see what you guys get up to at all? Because I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, great.
Thank
I
you.
love your passion.
Thanks.
We do a lot of different engagement events. Generally, as the weather gets better, you'll find us just popping up on beaches with a nice dome gazebo that we can chat to you all about.
Nice.
Which we do have a Facebook page and a newsletter, so you can keep up to date with us that way. But we also have in Torbay the National Seagrass Nursery, which is the largest subtidal seagrass growing facility in the UK.
Yes, I think I saw that.
That's a mouthful, say that very quickly. But we do take volunteers there throughout the year as well. So if you head onto our website on our Get Involved page, there's information about it there. And then that's kind of the best way to keep up to date with us and what we're doing. And then if any jobs come out, we can let you know that way.
Brilliant. Yeah, thank you. Is there any sort of like email at all? Do you know that I can just pop something over to?
Yeah,
Just
I'll
in
pop an
regards to.
email in the
Thank you.
chat now. So that
I mean, yeah.
this is one that will reach Meg and I. So anybody, any questions at all about the coastal count, this email that I'll pop in the chat now here.
Right.
Feel free to reach out and contact us. So yeah, I'll just do that now.
Cool. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Rachel, did you still want to share something? I don't know how Katie, do you want to type your question? And if Rachel still had a question, we can then move to her and then come back to your written question. Thank you.
Hi, thank you. To be honest, my question very much follows on from Noah. I've read about your nursery in Torbay. I'm just about to go back to university and start an MSc in applied marine science. So I'm very, very interested in the seagrass projects, and I'd very much like to kind of get hands on as well. So I'll do the same. I'll send you over an email and see if I can get involved as well. That'd be brilliant.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, there's lots going on. Meg and I do a very broad array of engagement activities. So hopefully, even if whoever wants to get involved in whatever way, there's multiple ways. So hopefully we can make something work for anybody who's keen. And again, just thank you for all coming and showing your support and your interest in our coastal count this evening. So, Katie, you were wondering on the online if you can tally or just put a number. So I was thinking about this actually. You can tally online, absolutely, but you could only do that with numbers. So if you've got it on your phone, you would only be able to use the phone number pad. So you could just do 11111 if there was 5 boats, and then as you go back through it, then count all your ones and pop 5. Whereas the tally is so much easier on the paper form because you can actually properly do the tally. So it's potentially anybody who is going to go out and do one it's a good idea to familiarize yourself with the survey form, perhaps which one you feel most comfortable with, whether that's the phone or the paper. And yeah, having a little bit of time to look through the guide, which should cover anyone's questions. So yeah, if anybody has any more questions, feel free to share. But I think it might be time for us to wrap up. What do you think, Meg?
Yeah, I think thank you so much for all of your questions, for coming tonight. It's really nice to know that people are interested in doing it. We will follow you up with a little email with all the links that we've put in our presentation, so you can get access to the survey forms and the guide and the location. And there was something else that I was going to link. Oh, the in-person dates will also send all the Eventbrite links to you. They are free. We just want to have a little idea of who's signing up. And if you can tell everyone you meet about Seagrass and the coastal count, that would be very much appreciated.
Yeah, do it. But yeah, thank you very much. We'll stay here for a few moments, but feel free to enjoy the rest of your evening, and thank you very much again.
Thank you very much. Have a nice
Thank
evening.
you.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.